Hello, I'm Shea.
And Peter Wakefield.
And today we're talking about the chart of Sir Richard Branson. Richard Branson, born 18th of July 1950 in London at about 7 a.m. He has 14 degrees of Leo rising and his sun is 25 degrees of Cancer in an equal house system. This gives him the 12th house, Sun conjunct Mercury in Leo. So his sun is in Cancer and it's conjunct Mercury in Leo at 3 degrees. This in itself is interesting.
Yeah, the Mercury in Leo in the first house is the trains. Mercury rules trains. And
so we're talking about his exploits with Virgin Travel now.
That's right. Aries, which is one of the signs associated with Mercury, is
only in an esoteric sense.
In an esoteric sense, is in the midheaven, so it sits right on top of everything else. But the trains.
Well, I think we should point out here that Peter's talking from a Placidian chart and I'm talking from an equal house chart.
Sorry, yeah,
it's all right.
So Mercury is the ruler of Aries, or one of the rulers of Aries in the midheaven. What the point is that Mercury in Leo is about controlling. Leo is control. Mercury is the control of the train empire, because it is empirical, isn't it? It's imperial, Leo.
Well, I think Leo ascendant needs explaining as what we see about Leo rising is that in this lifetime, people with Leo rising want to have a claim and they want to be appreciated. And this would fit with his 12th house sun, because this is a retiring person. Again, Sun Cancer in the 12th house is quite retiring and quite timid in a way. Timid not probably being the wrong word, but could be reclusive and could be not so forthcoming. But Leo rising argues with that, because it's the habits of a lifetime might be to be reclusive and to keep behind the scenes, but the rising sign of Leo suggests somebody who wants to come centre stage, and in fact that's what he does more with his exploits.
That's right, he likes to show off.
He likes to shine.
Pluto, also in Leo in the first house, is a power factor as
Very
well.
powerful.
It is exalted in the sign of Leo.
Which
means a lot of the chthonic energies of Pluto will come through the unconscious and have a very controlling and powerful effect.
I think that
in the personality.
Yeah, it's almost like a compulsion or a very strong need to lead out with whatever he feels passionate about, because Leo rising people are fairly passionate about where their heart is, because Leo rising is about opening the heart and relying on the heart and listening to the heart, where in fact, because it might have been ignored before. But the moon is also first house, and that's in Virgo.
Yes.
So that gives a thoroughness to what otherwise might be a bit flaky.
Yes, I always think of detail.
Detail with
peccadillos, mooning.
That's a good word.
Moon in Virgo, it loves the little
details. Moon in Virgo is very faithful to what it. We saw this in Vivienne Westwood's chart. Is faithful to what it decides it will follow, or what it decides it will enlarge, especially in the first degrees of Virgo. We see an interesting but wide square between Venus in Gemini and Saturn in Virgo in the second house. Now, Saturn in Virgo in the second implies a very long haul regarding the career or the making of money.
Yes.
And it implies somebody who is dogged in that and works quite hard at that.
And Saturn in the second house is economic with money.
Saturn in Virgo is very thrifty as well.
Very thrifty.
And in the second house, yes, I would say it's somebody who either has to scrabble for every penny, or somebody who builds literally something so solid that it can't be broken. But the square to Venus in Gemini in the 11th shows that money will be used to various objects within the lifestyle. Objectives within the lifestyle. And it's almost a scattering of interests. Gemini.
There's almost an opposition. It's a weak opposition
to
Jupiter.
Jupiter.
Jupiter in Pisces, retrograde in the 8th house.
Well, there is an opposition to the moon, isn't there? Yes.
Sorry, the moon is opposite the sign of Pisces, and Jupiter in Pisces.
I think that's quite strong, actually.
It is, but it's a weak orb to Saturn. But yes, opposition moon, all those peccadillos are in opposition to the boy in him who is an adventurer, who is wanting to burst out. That Jupiter wants to burst out and do other things like the ballooning, for example.
Jupiter in Pisces.
Jupiter in Pisces. I put here is ballooning is a distraction for the endless complaints about Virgin Trains.
Perhaps he ought to suggest that people go by balloon instead of train.
Virgo, the moon in Virgo, is very concerned with timetables, being on time, being late, being early. That's what I mean by peccadillo.
Although I don't think he will run his own train system. He probably plays with a toy train set on the floor or something and rehearses. I don't know. But the ballooning about Jupiter in Pisces is very humane, isn't it?
Yes,
but it's also to do with escaping from harsh reality.
It's also biting.
Clouds.
Yeah, it's biting off more than he can chew.
In the 7th house, it would refer to partnership, wouldn't it?
Yes.
So what do we see about his partnerships from that then?
A lot of them are dissolved with Pisces in the 7th.
More than one, definitely.
Yes. Branching out, differentiating.
Partners who are good to him, or completely the other way around, and he being very good to his partners, and taking on partnership from an angel investor point of view as well.
Yeah, empathy.
Empathy without a doubt. We've got Mars and Neptune here in Libra. And Neptune is cusp between his 2nd and 3rd. So again, that would really point to a kind of some sort of extravagance in money or finance and a daring or not necessarily a daring, but a kind of lackadaisical thing.
Yeah, Mars in Libra to me.
But I'm talking about the Neptune with the Mars.
Well, that's dissolution, isn't it? Neptune is dissolution.
Which is to do with drainage. So it's almost like letting money just go for the sake of it.
It's wasted.
Hazarding money for the sake of it. But we were talking before about has he let it... But Mars and Neptune can be exploitative.
It's energized. I think that Neptune is energized by Mars conjunction.
It's very into concepts and inspirational concepts.
You know, we were talking before before recording that Mars in Libra can be enforcing the law, but it's also breaking the law. I put here dissolution of regulation and reformation of rules. In other words, he often likes to break the rules and then reform them. And Richard is very much a forward thinker. And
Mars in Libra lays down strategy, so it's stratagems for taking things forward. Yeah. And they're very inspirational, and they're either going to work or they're going to be total failure, because this is what Neptune does. And there is a side to him through this aspect that would allow him to be exploited at certain times if he doesn't have strong advice or strong backing. And it's at odds, this Neptune, because Neptune is between that 2nd and 3rd, so it's at odds with the Saturn in the 2nd, which is very strict about order and knowing what's what. But Neptune would almost be like, oh well, go on then, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting combination to build up money and then to risk it.
Yes. Yeah.
And his space travel project will risk money.
I see that as the Jupiter bucket handle here.
Right.
Jupiter is expansive.
Yeah.
Wanting to break out of the norm. And to me, the ballooning and the space project is that bucket handle of Jupiter in the 7th and 8th there. It gives him a distraction from his terrestrial interests.
Yes.
Other terrestrial interests.
Yes. He's bound to have more than one interest, because that Venus in Virgo is in the 3rd decanate, which is the Aquarian decanate of Gemini. He wants to meet as wide a cross-section of people and know about their ideas as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So this is somebody who works powerfully behind the scenes. Sun Cancer in the 12th with Leo rising and Pluto on, but Pluto on that ascendant means he's always got the control.
Yes.
Even though people might think, here's somebody very laid back, he doesn't, he's very easygoing, but he's always got that control. And
yes, it's a personal charisma almost.
It is that people will trust him with that control.
Yeah.
But working in a low key, not really taking the limelight, although he will want he'll want the acclaim and the appreciation, but perhaps won't like the limelight so much. Well, I don't think he does.
Well, coming back to that Sun in the 12th house in Cancer, he likes to hide away. He's private. He's private.
Yeah.
And he's reclusive, and he's got his own home in the Sun. He's hideaway in the Sun, as I put it, which is Sun in the 12th.
That's right. Well, that's tailor-made for somebody who's going to be successful, because if you get to a certain point of success, I think you're going to need to be a bit reclusive.
Yeah.
But you could almost turn that round and say, because he's got that trait, that is what has enabled him to be so successful. And in fact, that's what we were discussing before. Perhaps the fact that perhaps people will find a lot of successful people do have the Sun in the 12th house.
Yes.
For that reason, because they can work alone, they can retire and seek their own company and not be distracted, and most of all, not be sort of inveigled or overly manipulated by other people.
The symbol for me is the Cancerian Sun. He's hatched his own plot.
Yeah.
He's sat on his own eggs they've hatched. And he's given brood to this beautiful business he calls Virgin Media or Trends and what have you.
Because he started with Virgin Records, didn't he?
Because Cancer is very nurturing.
Cancer is nurturing.
It'll have eggs which it hatches and brings to fruition.
Yeah.
And this fledgling business has taken off and really established itself over 40
I
years.
wonder if he's ever worked as a DJ, as a disc jockey with this 12th house. Because I know he established Virgin Records. I don't know whether he was
He certainly had record in business.
He did, and then he had a radio station.
Virgin Records were there from the...
And then he had Virgin Radio, didn't he? And that is, and radio is it's a silent medium, so it's not like being, on show. That's very 12th house.
And he's a very lucid thinker with the Venus in Gemini.
He's a very
clear thinker.
He's a very interesting character altogether, I think.
But with the 12th house Sun, he will be nebulous. He will melt into the abstract as a person. He's very interesting in that respect.
Yeah, it would suggest we haven't got strong aspects to his moon at all. Except we've got this opposition of Jupiter. So this would suggest loyalty from his partners, and particularly female partners. But it would suggest a humane aspect around,
and a strong mother figure.
Yeah.
Whether that be the wife or his own mother, I don't know. But very maternal. There's a maternity about Richard. As well as the masculinity of the Leo rising.
He's so, yes. You can see Leo rising in him for anybody who's interested in him.
Looks like a lion.
He doesn't, rising signs often it gives away where the rising sign is, because people show the physical attributes of the rising sign a lot more than just their sun sign, unless there's a stellium around the sun.
Yes, he's very leonine.
He is very leonine. If you look at him and that beard and the way his hair grows and everything, he's a very leonine character.
He's the archetypal Brit.
Is he?
Yes, I think so.
The archetypal Brit.
Yes.
Yeah, he does. I mean, yes. Although the Venus in Gemini would suggest strong connection with New York, wouldn't it? It would suggest small connection with America.
Uranus in Cancer is very powerful as well.
Is it?
Gives power to his ideas that he hatches, Notice I'm using these words very selectively because they're archetypal. Cancer does hatch plots.
Of course, Uranus exoterically tends to break everything it touches. So what we say is it tends to throw out everything it touches. So what there's, in a sense, there will be a kind of discordant rhythm in the lifestyle here, breaking of patterns within the lifestyle, and
an unusual home.
Yeah.
Uranus in Cancer.
Yes.
Or unusual regime at home.
Yeah. Because
he had the fire at home, didn't he? A couple of years back.
Oh, he did?
He had a fire on the island. That would be indicative of Mars probably transiting that.
You see,
Scorpio in the fourth.
Yes, in an exoteric chart, and using equal house, his midheaven would be Taurus, and so his 14 degrees Taurus literally squaring 14 degrees Leo ascendant. And these are both fixed signs, so the fixity is very strong. There's nothing actually aspecting that midheaven near it in a conjunction, except that Pluto is squaring the midheaven.
Yes,
but the midheaven itself squaring the ascendant is enough to give that solidity, that fixity, that substance. And actually, it's not interfered with. It is not interfered with because there's nothing very much getting in its way. So this is somebody who knows where his substance lies and moves towards consolidation in everything he does, but probably quite patiently.
I would say physically, towards old age, there's a frailty here.
Yes.
Saturn in Virgo.
Yes.
He won't be as physically strong as he would like to think.
Mm-hmm.
I think with that Saturn in Virgo and Moon in Virgo also.
Yeah.
They're very de-energized through stomach complaints. And
intestine, lower intestine often.
So he's got to watch out for that weakness, really.
Yes. But apart from that, and he is very private. Again, you see, because this Sun, 12th Mercury, very private person. So he's not the kind of person who will just daub his doings all over the media, daub his doings, spread his private life information widely, which I personally like very much because I hate this modern thing of social media letting everybody know what you're doing every minute of the day and what you think, and every opinion you have is no. I think if the more successful you are, the more private you actually need to be for the sake of your own sanity and those around you. And this is somebody who can Saturn in Virgo is quite it's got loads of integrity and likes to be classified. Likes information to be classified.
And Jupiter in Pisces, he's got this philosophic, almost religious aspect
He's very spiritual, I think.
To his personality, which you would never see. He doesn't expose that.
He probably doesn't need to.
He doesn't need to.
No.
But it's there. There is a deep aspect to Richard.
Yes, there is. Okay, well, so we hope that you join us next time for our next Celebrity Pod. In the meantime, if you would like information about our own astrological services for your own life, then please visit Peter Wakefield on LinkedIn or our site www.perceptivity.co.uk.